Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. Today, we are taking a massive deep dive into relationship psychology, and we're looking at it through a really fascinating astrological lens, specifically Venus in the seventh house. Now, whether you're a hardcore astrology buff or you're just, endlessly fascinated by human connection, this specific placement acts like this giant mirror. It shows us exactly how we balance our deep desire for love with the crucial need to keep our own identity. We all navigate this dynamic, and the source material we're unpacking today breaks it down just beautifully. So let's jump right in.
I want you to take a quick second and ask yourself this. Can you love someone deeply without losing yourself? It's a pretty heavy question, right? I mean, when we fall in love, or even when we just care deeply for someone, that urge to totally merge with them is incredibly strong. We want to be accommodating, we want to be their rock, but where do your emotional boundaries end and your partner's begin? I want you to keep this question right in the back of your mind as we go through this today.
Section 1. The House of Partnerships.
All right, to really wrap our heads around this placement, we first have to talk about the seventh house itself. In astrology, this is pretty much the relationship zone. It completely governs partnerships, marriage, commitment, cooperation, balance, and just fundamentally how we connect on a deep level with other people. We are not talking about casual, fleeting flings here. No, this area of life is entirely focused on deep, lasting companionship and those structural, long-term agreements we make with others.
So what happens when we drop the planet Venus right into that seventh house environment? Well, Venus is all about love, beauty, harmony, affection, and emotional connection. And because Venus just naturally craves that emotional closeness and mutual respect, it feels absolutely, completely at home sitting right here in the seventh house. People with this placement, they value meaningful relationships above almost anything else. They inherently believe that love is the secret ingredient that makes life rich. They are definitely not just looking for a roommate to split the bills with. They are hunting for a deeply connected, totally harmonious emotional bond.
Section 2. The Gift of Harmony. You can kind of think of this as the light side of the pendulum. This is where we see the absolute superpowers of these individuals. People with Venus in the seventh house naturally put relationships first. They absolutely despise unnecessary conflict. And honestly, because of that, they become incredibly skilled at compromise. It's like a superpower. They're excellent at reading and understanding others because they just naturally tune into other people's frequencies. They offer rock-solid emotional support and place a huge premium on thoughtful communication, kindness, and romance. They literally use these gifts to build these warm, respectful, secure little bubbles where their partners feel truly deeply understood. It is a beautiful set of skills.
But here is where things get super interesting, the duality of it all. On one hand, we've got those beautiful strengths we just covered, the compromise, the amazing emotional support. But on the flip side, we find the hidden challenges, people-pleasing and emotional dependence. You see, every single strength carries a hidden risk. That intense desire to keep the peace, it's wonderful, but push it a little too far and it quickly becomes a major liability.
Section 3. The People-Pleasing Trap.
Okay, so now we're swinging over to the shadow side of this placement. Let's look at what actually happens when that craving for harmony goes just a bit too far. Let's walk through this dangerous little progression. Step 1. It starts out innocently enough, just a natural dislike of conflict. Who likes fighting, right? But that can slide really quickly into Step 2, where avoiding fights turns into a habit of trying to please absolutely everyone, which, you guessed it, inevitably leads to Step 3, silencing your own personal needs. Your voice, your preferences, they get quieter and quieter, while everyone else's happiness gets turned up to max volume. And finally, boom, Step 4, emotional dependence. When your sense of self-worth becomes entirely tied to whether someone else is happy with you, well, love has quietly morphed into dependence. You start relying on the relationship to generate a happiness that only your own inner stability can actually provide.
And that whole progression brings us to this incredibly poignant observation from our source material. They become excellent partners while slowly becoming strangers to themselves. Wow, I really want you to let that sink in for a second. It perfectly captures the tragic irony of this placement. These folks can adapt themselves so thoroughly just to make sure the relationship works that over time, they literally forget their own preferences, their own dreams, their own boundaries. They absolutely perfect the art of loving someone else, but their own core identity just evaporates in the process.
Section 4. The Necessity of Conflict. So how in the world do you break out of that people-pleasing cycle? Well, you have to realize that lasting harmony grows from truth rather than silence.
Now, for a Venus placement that is quite literally wired to seek peace, disagreements feel awful. They feel incredibly uncomfortable. But here's the thing. Biting your tongue and avoiding difficult conversations just to keep the peace, that doesn't actually save the relationship. Actually, scratch that. It does the exact opposite. It just creates this massive emotional distance down the road. Real intimacy grows through honest communication, not perfect, robotic agreement. Respectful conflict actually builds true intimacy because it forces both people to be completely authentic while still caring for each other.
When we finally open the door to honest interaction, we find out something amazing. Relationships act as mirrors. They reflect all these things we literally cannot see when we're flying solo. Intimate relationships force old insecurities right to the surface. Childhood expectations pop up out of nowhere, and those deeply hidden fears, yeah, they rise up too. Fears of rejection, fears of abandonment, and sometimes, strangely enough, hidden fears of acceptance. All of this stuff quietly runs the show in our daily interactions, and being in a partnership forces us to finally look in the mirror and confront them.
And because of that intense mirroring effect, every single close relationship is a massive opportunity for profound self-discovery. But taking advantage of this requires a huge mindset shift. Instead of just constantly asking, does this person love me? This placement practically begs you to ask, do I understand myself better because of this relationship? The friction, the mirroring, the uncomfortable conversations, they aren't red flags of a failing partnership. No way. They are the exact tools you need for your own personal growth.
Section 5. Loving without losing yourself.
All right, let's swing that pendulum right back to the center. A massive piece of this balancing act comes down to the dynamic between giving and receiving. Giving love, which means generosity, affection, emotional support, is a breeze here. For this Venus placement, giving love feels as natural as breathing. But look at the flip side, receiving love. That requires vulnerability, it requires openness, and honestly, it often proves way, way more difficult. Some people get so intensely focused on taking care of their partner that they actually forget how to let anyone take care of them. But a balanced, healthy relationship absolutely requires both. You simply cannot have one fully without the other.
So here is the absolute crucial takeaway. Love should expand your identity, not erase it. Genuine, real love does not ask you to toss out your personal values, your dreams, or your emotional independence. Not at all. Instead, it creates this big, spacious, supportive environment where two complete individuals can grow together, side by side, without ever having to compromise who they truly are. To get to that kind of love, well, there are a few non-negotiables. Healthy love requires mutual respect and deep trust. It requires the raw honesty to engage in respectful conflict when things get messy. It requires a shared purpose, and above all else, it requires inner wholeness. The best, healthiest relationships aren't built on emotional dependence. They're built by two whole people choosing to come together. When your love grows from that inner wholeness rather than just a desperate emotional need, your partnership becomes this profound source of strength instead of a source of fear. It is all about bringing your entire heart into a relationship while never ever forgetting exactly who you are.
I want to leave you today with this final provocative thought. Are your relationships expanding your identity, or are they slowly erasing it? It is so incredibly easy to slip into that habit of sacrificing little pieces of yourself just to keep the peace. But true connection, the kind of connection that actually goes the distance, demands that you show up fully, 100% as yourself. So take a little time today to really analyze the balance in your own partnerships. Thank you so much for hanging out with me for this explainer. I really hope it gave you some game-changing insights into the psychology behind how we love. Catch you next time.